What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam episode 82. Are you running a business or just an expensive hobby? Danielle from the Merriweather Council joins us for part 2 of our 2-part series where we talk about pricing. Make sure your listings and shop are set up for maximum sales and success. Danielle shares some great tips about overcoming the hobbyist mentality, finding the best price point, and what you should do about discounts in your shop. What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
And I am Richie from Marmalead. And if you have an Etsy shop but have not yet checked out Marmalead, you got to go get yourself some Marmalead, because Marmalead gets your products found with real shopper keywords. We take the guesswork out of getting found on Etsy. So come over, learn more about Marmalead at marmalead.com. And that is MARMALEAD.com.
And we have a very special guest back with us again today. We have Danielle from the Merriweather Council. Thank you so much for joining us, Danielle.
Thank you again for having me twice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is part 2 of a 2-part series we're doing with Danielle. If you haven't listened to the first episode yet, you can go back and do that. It was the Etsy Jam immediately previous to this one. And we talked about Danielle's story, how she got started selling on Etsy. Talked a little bit about the Merriweather Council, her podcast that she has. You guys can check that out if you aren't familiar with that yet. And we talked about leveraging your Etsy shop to kind of explore things outside of just looking at getting sales directly through shoppers, and maybe attracting some bigger brands, some influencers and stuff like that to your shop. But today we are wanting to talk about pricing in your Etsy shop. So this is a big topic. I think this is great because a lot of people look at pricing probably not in the best way for someone who's doing e-commerce, right? It's easy to fall into this trap of, I'm going to follow this formula and price all my things this way and cover my costs or however people decide to do it. But there's so much more to it than that. And one of the things you wanted to talk about with us, Danielle, was this idea of, are you as an Etsy seller or e-commerce seller in general online, are you paying to stay in business?
Yes, something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
Talking about pricing, helping people see the value of their own work and charging appropriately for it it's hard, especially when people are newer. And then there's competition, of course. People love to look around and see what other people are selling. But the most important thing to remember here is that if you're not making a profit at whatever price it is that you're selling, then you basically have what I like to refer to as a very expensive hobby, a very stressful hobby. I think we can all agree as well.
Yeah.
Most hobbies should not be as stressful as running a business. And so it's hard, I think, for people to do this properly, especially at first, because most of us handmade people did not get into this being like, I want to be a business person. We got into this making things that we like to make for friends or family or for ourselves, just for fun. And then people started making comments like, oh, you should sell this, or, oh, I would buy that if you were selling it, or, oh, can you make one for me?
Yeah.
And I'll pay you, or maybe they won't pay you or whatever, but people start asking. And of course, that doesn't help either, right? When the people closest to us are like, can you make one for me for free?
What
right?
about my friend?
Exactly. Like, I'll give you a hug. So we don't get into it thinking we want to be in business. We just get into it because we like to make things. And then it sort of evolves into a business over time. So it's hard to go from like, oh, I just made this on the couch for fun, or, oh, I love to do this work. This work is relaxing for me. Like, people always love to say things like that. Oh, it just took 10 minutes. And, oh, I was watching Gilmore Girls while I was doing it or whatever. It's like, okay, but now it's actually work because you are making it your business. So
yeah,
it's not always going to be like sitting on the couch watching TV. It's going to sometimes be like actual, real, hard, fast paced stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to account for all of that. So like that mental shift from like hobby to business is huge. And I think slows people down in their pricing accurately. But it's so important that people get it right as soon as they possibly can, not just for themselves, but for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be someone who can sell what you're selling or similar item cheaper. No matter what, no matter how low you are selling it for, there's always going to be someone who's selling it for less. So in that sense, it doesn't even make sense to try to compete for the lowest price.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even want to buy the lowest price thing anyway. So,
right.
There's so much to think about when you're pricing, but that's the biggest thing is like, you have to be profitable. Otherwise, you just have an expensive hobby. So if you're not profitable and you want to be in business, then you have to price correctly. You do not have a choice. So that's the biggest, like, number one thing that people need to understand is that if they're not set up to be profitable, meaning like if your prices are all as they should be, you're just not making as many sales as you have to be making yet, that's something we can fix. But once you get there, you want to be at the place where you are profitable, which comes from those prices. So it really starts with the pricing, and then the number of sales, the volume of sales is secondary, I think, to that. But actually getting the price right is first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, sometimes if you don't have it priced right and then you get to a certain point scale-wise, things sometimes get more expensive. The next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute, I'm selling more. I should be making money, but I'm not.
Yes.
That's not good.
You get into this like very strange relationship with your own product. And even this has happened to me too, where out of the blue, you get a huge influx of orders at the wrong price. And then you have this like fatigue where you're not even making enough to sustain the amount of time you have to spend to do all this work. You don't want to get in a situation like that. That's why you want to have the prices right to begin with. So just no matter what happens, you're going to be profitable. It's hard, but that's the most important thing in terms of business is like the pricing has to be right for success to happen.
So what tips would you give to sellers to help them get their pricing right as early as possible?
So the first thing is to like just break yourself out of that whole like hobby mindset, or like I said, where people are like, oh, but it's fun for me. I enjoy doing it. Like, yes, that's the dream, right? To enjoy your job, but it's still not going to be a job just because you enjoy doing it. You should still be paid. The reason that people want to buy from you is because they love what you're making. They don't want to have to make it themselves, or they don't have time for it. Yeah. It's an exchange of value, and people need to see their own value in order to feel comfortable exchanging it for money. So that's the first thing, is to feel secure in your own value, like what you're doing. Because so many people are like, oh, everyone knows how to knit or crochet or whatever. And it's like, first of all, no, not everybody does. I know how to knit a straight line back and forth and a circle, but I don't want to. I don't want to make a skirt. I don't even want to make a scarf. Like I don't want to do that. Like, yes, I know technically how to do it, but I don't want to. So I'd be happy to have someone else do that for me, right? So even when people know how to do something, doesn't mean that they suddenly want to or can do it as well as you did, or have time to do it. So that is the biggest thing mentally. I think people just have to get over like, oh, it's easy for me, so I don't have to charge a lot for it. Or, oh, I love to do it, so I don't have to charge a lot for it. It's like, no, that's the point. That's like the first major thing. And I think sometimes what helps with that is to go out, like we were saying on the other episode, to do shows and stuff where people come to your table or your booth or whatever, and they just compliment you, basically, right? Like a lot of times that's what happens at shows. Of course, you get people who say rude things at shows or mean things, but a lot of times you basically are in a situation where people are coming and they're just like praising you all day. They're like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Even if they don't buy something, that's a really good confidence booster to put yourself off of a marketplace like Etsy, where everybody seemingly knows how to do the things you know how to do, and go somewhere where people don't know. And so they're like super impressed. And that is like an instant confidence booster right there. But then also like not being afraid to look at the mathematical parts of the equation, which I know for us right-brained people, it's like, oh, flaming tailspin of math is horrible. I hate doing math at any juncture, but it's so important to just like get past this initial hurdle of like understanding your numbers to get to your pricing. You know, there's lots of different ways, formulas, whatever, to come up with a price. You have to know the things that go into the formula first. And some people are just so afraid to sit down and do that, but it's so useful and lucrative for you to know, because it gives you that flexibility for pricing, and pricing with the availability of doing a sale once in a while or whatever. And once you know those numbers, you can have more power over them, make changes to them as needed. So I think those are like the two biggest tips for someone, is like to get that confidence boost, to understand your value and the exchange of value that you're making with someone who's paying you, and feel comfortable with that, which takes time. But then the money, the math and the numbers thing, that's like an afternoon project really, probably for most people. So like Yes, it's gonna suck, but it's just one afternoon, one evening of life, every year or so. You don't have to do this every single day, just for, the products you have. Just try to get some solid numbers there so that you can have knowledge. Knowledge is power. So that's, I think, the two biggest factors.
So for sellers who maybe feel like they're pretty established, they've had their shops around for a long time, and they've kind of been setting their pricing for a while, and revisiting things means that they would have to increase prices. There's always a lot of trepidation from sellers who are very nervous to do that.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people that are just super scared that they're going to increase prices and it's going to be crickets? Like whatever sales they have now are going to totally cease, and people are not going to want to pay the increased prices.
We now interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast to bring you your first Easter egg in June, which is a pair of yard flamingos.
Well, I mean, I think to some extent, raising prices is kind of just like such is life. I mean, even like Amazon Prime recently raised their price. And like, if Amazon can't subsidize maintaining a low price, who can,
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes it's just a matter of being realistic. Like, it doesn't have to be like a 40% increase. It maybe is just like a few dollars or whatever. It can be scary. I think a lot of people are afraid of like isolating their existing customers, which I think is fair. And so normally I suggest people just give people a warning. Like, if the price is going to be substantially increasing, like just give your current customers a warning. Like, hey, I'm going to be increasing this price, and here's maybe why, if you want to explain. Or usually there is some reason in the handmade community, at least, for increasing the price other than just, I want to make more money. Because people usually try to justify, I mean, in my experience, that's what it seems like. People try to justify the price increase. And so if there's an honest reason for that, like my supply costs have increased and they can't be decreased or maintained, that's just how it has to be, right? If you have a customer base that comes to you often enough that you're worried about them feeling isolated, they should completely understand that. And if you don't, then what does it matter? You'll just find new customers who come to you one and done, because there is a market for every product at every price point. It's just a matter of like delivering that value to people, like communicating that value. So people shouldn't be afraid of having higher prices than they previously had or than other people have. They just need to know that it's just going to come with maybe a little bit extra effort. And sometimes it doesn't. And the other thing is, and you guys know this, sometimes if you're pricing correctly or above what you were pricing, you're making less sales, but you're making more profit.
Yeah.
So you're doing less work for more money. But I blame a lot of this on Etsy for glorifying the number of sales that a shop has had by putting it on the front of your shop. And like, there's always a very long and, tumultuous history among sellers of like having this emotional attachment to that number.
Yeah.
So people are very attached to how many sales do I make rather than how much money do I'm like,
right.
You guys, wouldn't you rather have money in your bank account than a sales number on your site that's like really small and barely anybody even cares about except you? Like there's only two people in the world who care about how many sales you have in your shop, which is you and people who are like haters. No one else really cares. I mean, yes, for customers, it's sort of like a reassurance, like other people have purchased from you before, but as long as you have like one or two reviews, we get that same experience.
Yeah.
So I do blame a lot of that emotional attachment to the number of sales a person makes on Etsy, but such is life. But people need to disassociate from number of sales to like quantitatively, like how does this translate to me profit wise?
That's fantastic advice. I like that. There's a lot of numbers out there available to sellers that you can easily keep track of that aren't really gonna help you get a good sense of how things are going. And I love that argument about that one. That's great.
And it's a fictional representation anyway, that sales number. Because if I go to your shop and I buy 40 from one listing, that's one sale.
Yeah.
But you made
because one transaction.
Yeah. So I'm like, not even real. Like in my shop, I sell a lot. Like people buy like 5 at a time because they're buying like for people, gifts, bridesmaids, whatever. But it's just one sale. So, people get so attached to these numbers that just don't even really mean anything.
Yeah.
So the meaningful number here is, what is your profit? How is this translating to your life as a person who runs a business? But
yeah,
people just got like super tied up in that number. It's all Etsy's fault.
It's hard to let go.
Agreed. You can make that number go up, and it doesn't mean your shop is healthy.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're healthy. So yeah, agreed. And it's only ever gonna go up. It can't go down.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And like, what does it really even mean? Like a lot of times you look at it and you're like, okay, X number of sales and X number of years, but like, what if someone took like 6 months off? Like, I've had my shop closed for several months at a time. Like, doesn't account for that, or it's just like it's weird that it's there. I don't know.
That's a common story too. A lot of we've talked to several sellers that they started their shop and then they took a break from it and reopened it. I mean, it just goes up and down. It depends on the person and their story and what their motivations were at the time. Mm-hmm. And, over the years, life happens in different ways. So, yeah, it is kind of weird. Like, okay, here's a date, here's the sales. And if you just look at it, it is very misleading. Because you might have had a shop that, you opened up 5 years ago, didn't do anything with, just left it there, and then recently started to sell. You have 5 sales, but you've been open for 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, yeah, only last month did I start putting energy into it. Ever.
Yeah.
So it's misleading.
Yeah. And most people get into something like this so they have that flexibility to turn it off, or take a break. So I don't like it.
It's actually even started discussion around what to do in that situation, because we've definitely been asked about shops that started it, they didn't do anything with it, and now it looks like they've been open for a long time but don't really have any sales. So now they're wondering if they should just open a new shop so it looks new and justifies the lack of sales. But at the same time, they had some sales, and they're wondering if it would just be better to have those few sales, even though it's not a lot. And it's just this whole conversation around it.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, just take the number down. Like, as long as the person has reviews, like something to show this person has made something and accurately presented it to the person and delivered on it. Like, what do we care how many times they've done that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're in good standing with Etsy. That's all we need to know.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. They could easily, if they wanted to, they could easily create some sort of a system, like, this is a shop that's rated 2 or 4, or whatever, like some kind of general rating, but whatever. That's another story for another day.
So in addition to number of sales as a metric for people to keep track of, another thing that you feel pretty passionately about is discounts. Is that right?
Oh, yes, I do. I do feel very passionately about discounts. I feel like there's a lot of bad information available to people, both in the form of advice and in the form of what they can observe in the real world. And like, I'm all for like, let's look at big business and like, latch onto their coattails on certain things because they've got all this money to do like R&D or whatever. But some of that is like, that's very specific to them. Like, we cannot do the same as Walmart, Target, and Amazon. But, people see big businesses setting this example and they're like, oh, if it works for them, it could essentially work for me, right? But it's like, not really. One of the biggest things people love to do is build their email list by giving a discount on like a first order or something. Like, you give me your email, I give you a coupon, you buy your thing, the end. And it's like, okay, first order. A lot of people even have this set up like a pop-up or like the lead line on their Instagram bio, or it's the first thing that you read about somebody sometimes. And it's like, I don't even know you yet to know whether or not your thing is even worth the price you're charging. But it doesn't even matter now because it's going to be 10 or 20% less than it is, no matter what, because you're giving me this never-ending coupon that applies to anything in your shop. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's no control for the seller in that situation. It immediately diminishes the value of your product before a person even gets to know you. And there's no... like, yes, you got someone's email address out of it, but they'll probably just unsubscribe. There's not even like the incentive for them to like follow along, social media wise and wait for a promotion that you're running. For me, I feel like that doesn't make any sense. for small businesses to do. Yes, I completely am on board with J. Crew and Banana Republic giving me 20% off my first order every time I order. Like, that's cool. I'm fine with that. But, you know, for small businesses and Etsy sellers, a lot of people are underpricing to begin with, and then there's a discount, and then, you know, they're losing money on fees they didn't realize they were paying. And so it's a tricky situation, because then this person who you could have had this relationship with as someone who came to your shop, loved your work, and bought it at full price, that option is completely no longer even there. Why would someone do that if they could get a discount?
Yeah.
But then I've spoken to so many people who've done this over the years, and they're like, almost no one even uses the coupon. And it's like, so you're maintaining it and you're like putting it out there. You're basically like discounting yourself, but no one's even taking you up on it. It's like weird. Like, just cut it. Like, just have people follow along with you and wait for a promotion or whatever, because then the sale is mutually beneficial. Like, if I'm going to run a sale, it's because I want to make a lot of money quickly, or I want to get rid of a lot of stuff quickly, or, you know, whatever. I have my own reasons for it. And like, then it's mutually beneficial to us. I feel good about what I've done discount wise, or it's on a specific thing, a specific number of things, product line, whatever. It helps me and it helps them. And promotions that are more curated and more like controlled tend to foster people to stick around longer, because they're buying something, but it maybe that discount wasn't available on everything. So there's still other products they like to buy from you or whatever. So it just feels a little bit more natural to have like these intentional promotions throughout the course of a year, rather than this one standard discount across the board that you can use anytime on anything that most people just ignore anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's one kind of discount that people love to do that like ultimately doesn't really translate as well as people think it will.
Right.
And that does maybe more harm than good, because it diminishes the value of your work up front. The other one that people love to do is that automated coupon that gets delivered to someone. You can set it up as soon as they buy something, they get a coupon for their next purchase. And it's like, you've just taken a person who did pay full price. Right. You worked so hard to get this person in your shop and to pay full price. You worked so hard for that sale. And who's to say they wouldn't continue to pay full price if they really loved what they bought? And so many people, especially on Etsy, because of the nature of the way Etsy is, they sell products that are like, you only really buy them once, like a third grade teacher gift. Like, you really probably only have one or two children who are going to have a third grade teacher, right? So it's like the one time that this person needs your product, you're not even giving them the option to buy. I don't know. It's crazy. Stop doing it.
So like, you know, Banana Republic and J. Crew were some of your examples up front, right? And those are great. They're a consumable. And they know you're going back there because you're going to buy stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to,
season, new clothes. Yep.
Yeah. And then you're going to buy other stuff from them because it goes with the stuff you just bought. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the stuff that, a lot of the discounting sale kind of strategies that retailers do that is often missed is that they discount one thing very strategically, like you said. They put it in the back of the store, knowing that you have to go parade around the store. You're going to load up your cart with all this other stuff. You're still going to buy that thing for 20% off, maybe, if it fits. If it's closed, it might not fit, right? But you're already there, so you're leaving with other stuff.
Exactly.
You're price for.
And you feel better about paying full price for that other stuff because you got a discount on the one thing, so you saved some money.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's like people really need to think through the whole process, but they don't. They stop at like, oh, of course someone will buy it. Like if they're on the verge of buying it, they're going to buy it with a discount. Of course they are. Mm-hmm. Like maybe, but what good is this going to do you long term? And then, you know, Etsy recently has done all this like adding these tools for discounting and emailing people and coupons and abandoned carts and all, and like just don't. Like what we should really focus on is making it so people see the value of what we're doing and feel compelled and okay with buying it at the price we set. That's the best you can do, really. And that makes it so you don't have to worry about discounting things all the time. Or, you know, some people get into this habit of discounting every holiday or this, you know, first order, second order, third order, like, you know, after your fifth order, you get 30% off or whatever. It's like, what is there for someone if, you know, besides the discount, like they're just going to wait. There's definitely places I buy from where I just wait a few days and I know it'll be on sale or something.
Yeah.
Usually big box stores, but like small businesses can definitely get into that habit of just discounting too often.
Yeah.
People get just, into that habit of just waiting.
Yeah. People get trained for that. The more discounts they get and the more frequently people give discounts, they just get in that mindset, like you said, of like, I'll wait for them to go on sale. I'm looking at buying a TV. I'll wait till February when it's Super Bowl season and everything goes on sale before I buy my TV. Like, what's another few months,
Exactly. It's
And
why
everyone knows
people
that-
put off certain things for like Black Friday.
Yeah.
What's funny is Joann Fabrics and is Michael's still the store that's around?
Mm-hmm.
But they have coupons all the time. And it's kind of a widely known thing. There's a group of people that they won't go to the store without a coupon because why would you? You can get it on your phone.
Yep.
While you're in line and they just scan it. You can just like use it every time. You could have used it earlier in the day and then just come back and you just get it's something like 40% off. It's crazy.
I've been in stores like that, like Bed Bath & Beyond is another one. I don't know if they still do, but I lived close to one recently and like they would always have a coupon. And like I've been in stores like that where like if I come in without a coupon, like they just scan one for you. Like like you don't even have to have the coupon with you. You don't even have to know the coupon exists. They're just like, oh, we have a coupon. Here it is. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even have to do anything to get 40%. Like that's ridiculous. But like a business like that, they obviously know what they're doing. That doesn't usually translate to small people, little guys like us.
Yeah.
We have to look out for ourselves.
Yeah, if you have like 3,000 stores in your company, that might work because you have the scale. And, some of that discounting is
making every single piece.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
There are layers upon layers of systems that either bring stuff in and push stuff out. And the stores are really just the outlet for that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get rid of this stuff. Let's advertise that it's on sale. And meanwhile, while we're selling this thing, because we need to get this out of the warehouse to make room for the other stuff, we'll put it in the back of the store. So they will come for that, but they're going to buy this other stuff too.
Exactly. And I guarantee you, Bed Bath & Beyond is marking up their stuff a lot more than we're marking our stuff up for. And so they have that flex space in there.
That's so true. They are going to buy the stuff they buy for cheap.
It always confuses me because I'm like, so many of us are like, fighting against the man, like support small business and all this stuff. And then like, but then we're acting the same as these big businesses that we're like staunchly against. And I'm like, guys, it doesn't make any sense what you're doing. But I mean, basically, one could argue that if you were priced perfectly correctly and your shop was set up in such a way that it was marketing at an incredible rate of conversion, maybe you could sustain that kind of a sales tactic. There's absolutely people out there who can, but for the vast majority of people, that's not the situation. So just don't even like eyes on your own paper. Like this is your business, my business, whatever. Do what works for us, not what maybe is working for other people. Because it's super easy to also see other people doing things and be like, oh, it must be working for them. Let me do it too. And it's like, meanwhile, it's maybe not really working for them.
Right. Or their market's totally different. It's like, well, they're selling jewelry. That's kind of not at all what you're selling,
Exactly. Yes.
But that's fantastic. Yep. That's awesome. Danielle, if people want to find out more about what you have to say about pricing or want to get to know you better, where should they go?
People can find me at merryweathercouncil.com. merryweathercouncilblog.com, and on my podcast, the Merryweather Council Podcast. I also did want to mention, since this is related, my good friend Janet LeBlanc and I, she's from Paper and Spark. I'm sure many of your listeners know who she is. We developed a course about pricing. It's called the Pricing Workshop.
Nice.
And she brings the math part because she's a CPA, and I bring the artsy part because I'm who I am. And we brought it together to help people figure out what their pricing should be, how to present that to their audience so that they make sales at those prices.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's called the Pricing Workshop. But of course, you can find all that info at merryweathercouncil.com, merryweathercouncilblog.com.
Awesome.
You'll get to it from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
thank
check
you.
that out. Anyone who's interested in learning more about pricing. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thanks for taking the time to join us for this 2-part series we've had with you. It's fantastic.
It's been great.
Any closing thoughts, Richie?
Here's a closing thought. We see a lot of what other people are doing on the outside, as Danielle mentioned, and I think it's really important that if we don't really understand how the inner workings of it are, like what's inside the package, we don't really know if we're just looking at a pretty box with nothing inside, or at least nothing good inside, or if what it is really working.
Yep.
So it's really hard to see. Even if we see really big companies doing it, it doesn't mean everything's wonderful, because sometimes those big companies don't perform near as well as we thought. Blockbuster did a lot of things, and they aren't around anymore. So if you were following strategies that Blockbuster was doing,
And they're not around anymore.
they're not around anymore.
It's true.
Sometimes you don't find out that things, aren't all they seem to be until, it's too late. And then you learn way more about it than you wanted to. So just listen.
I thought they failed because people just refused to rewind the videos.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I certainly did. And I certainly wasn't going to pay to.
That probably didn't help.
Once it switched to DVDs and they couldn't charge you for rewinding, they were probably like, how are we going to make money? I like to just say the discounting is what killed them.
All right. Well, thanks again, Danielle. It was fantastic.
Thank you both so much. This was really good.
Absolutely.
I hope people will enjoy listening.
I think they will. You had a lot of great info, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this one. And again, if you haven't heard the first part of the series, I encourage you to go check that out too. You can find it at blog.marmalade.com/Etsy-jam, and you'll find all of our other jams out there too. We will catch you guys next time on Etsy Jam.